Okay, the short form, the précis, is that on Pender Island, mid-October, I discovered a sniper nest built on a public beach near my home. I contacted CBC, I think it was Investigative Reports, Carol Tomlinson, and I had really positive feedback, at least some, from the Victoria Pandora Street location especially. And eventually they quit returning my emails or returning any phone calls. Then I started getting visits from the Mounties. The estimate is 19 in 1 month. Now, the sniper's nests, I don't really have a big objection to. They were necessary for Olympic security because the command and control center of the Vancouver Olympic Committee was at the Poets Cove Resort during and leading up to, and for all I know afterwards, of the Olympics in February. February 8th, during the Olympics at about 6 o'clock at night, there was a very, very peculiar and very loud droning noise all over the island. I've heard this before. This is a technology that's often used for digging Minuteman missile silos. It's a nuclear tunneling device that you can see the patents for. They date back to 1957. They've been operational in the U.S. for a long, long time. What I figure was being done was under the guise of a Parks Canada project, which I suspect is a black op. In a national forest, Gulf Islands National Park, Mount Norman, a mountain that I understand is riddled with limestone caverns, some opening underwater, especially into the channel facing Saturna Island. I believe they used a tunneling device to kind of core out the mountain, to connect mini caverns. The nuclear tunneling device's reactor would be left on site and added to the power grid. A nuke-proof nuclear reactor power supply that probably supplies the government here in Victoria. Blanchard Street was undergoing massive excavations and electrical work. I think a nuclear power plant coming on stream can account for a lot of that. Anyway, I figure it's a submarine port. Legally, there's no need for the federal government to seek environmental impact statements, or I suppose even the opinions of the residents. You see, I figure that with the next solar cycle, the next sunspots with mass coronal ejections, that if you're above ground or not underwater, when a mass coronal ejection hits the upper atmosphere, it disrupts everything. Cosmic radiation pours in, and people will be like butterflies in a furnace unless they're underground. Now, as a resident and currently an ex-resident of Pender Island, I would just be concerned. I think it's fair that we know of any contingency plan in the case of a civil emergency or military emergency. Would us locals get to take up some vacant beds in there? I don't know. That doesn't sound like really preferential treatment or anything. It seems humane. I'm less convinced that we can expect humanity from the current Bush-era black ops ministry operations. Now, a thing I've been concerned about is that the chief of CSIS spoke about municipal and provincial employees and ministries being subject to influence by foreign governments. My concern right now is that I have no certainty that this submarine port isn't a Chinese submarine port. Without the light of day, this whole thing really stinks. And simply for being as observant as I am, I've suffered huge circumstances. This will all come out at my trial. The next date is scheduled for the 22nd of December this year. I've been permitted back on Pender Island 2 hours to take what I could carry in my hands of my entire life. And I can't discuss further without touching on sensitive materials right now. So I'm going to sign off. Believe it or not, that was the short form. There's a lot of details that are going to blow your mind.